Hello, hello. Welcome to another trading recap. Today is August 27th, 2026, and we're going to jump right into it. Yesterday, I said that we needed to make a change, and today we did. You'll notice that in the VOD, I don't have the 10-second chart on. That's because today I traded with the 5-minute chart and the daily as context. I kept those as usual, but I only traded off the 1-minute chart instead of the 10-second in conjunction with the level 2. So this made my process a little bit different, and the hopes that I had today with this change is that it would make me a bit uncomfortable and take me out of my usual routine where I get into a habit of sitting for 30 minutes or an hour waiting for something to pop up, and then when it finally does pop up, I hesitate to jump into the trade and I miss the whole thing. And today we are red, but we have some pretty positive results, I think. My first trade today was in YAAS. Let me just mute the audio on the VOD here. It had some news, reported fiscal year results, 6 million share float, Chinese tech company. And right away, the stock popped up really fast to 380. We have 5 seconds left in this candle close. It's up 41%, positioning it to be in our top 5 leading gainers. I thought that this had a chance to move very fast. And this is the one of the setups that I'll be trading without the 10-second chart is a candle over candle where we're holding a certain level. So I'm watching the level 2. I notice that it pulls back to 350 and it gets bought up off of 350. So I identify 350 as a level of support. We have 3 seconds left of this candle close. So I punch an order right here at 379, stop of around 350 or 360. Just 20 shares as I'm getting a hang of trading with only the 1-minute chart and the level 2. And we have a candle over candle pop all the way up to 450 there for a brief second. If I punch an order, it pops up to 430 and 450 just for a brief second, but we have a lot of big sellers. And I recognized that there were big sellers. So right away, I tried punching an order to sell on the bid. You see how quickly it dropped to 380 right there. Rewind 10 seconds again. So it pops up to 430, it stalls, and then I try to get out on the bid, but my order ends up hanging on the order history, on the order window. It doesn't get filled. It drops all the way down to 370. And I try getting out on the ask because I'm thinking maybe it'll pop back up. Since we had such a big drop, it might pop back up over VWAP. But it continues going lower, and so I just stop out at 355 for a small loss in my first trade of the day. Although the outcome was red, I was actually pretty happy that I took this trade because I took it as I intended with no hesitation. And it did pop up to 450, and it could have gone even higher. For whatever reason, it ended up rejecting off of that level, but that doesn't discount the fact that this was a good trade to take on a stock with news that was moving quickly and was a decent setup. So although it didn't work out, I'm happy that I took the trade. You know, these little wins of breaking that habit of hesitation are what matter to me right now. I also, if I was really fast and I scalped out immediately, I probably could have gotten some profit up at, 450 and 430 maybe. And I can see what some of you guys are saying, where some of you are saying that this is sort of a pop and drop market, whereas it might be better to take a little bit of profit earlier on or scalp out earlier on because these stocks aren't holding up and making big moves. They kind of have one burst, like flare burst of momentum, and then they stall out and then reject. So I can see a case for taking some profit there immediately, and I might consider changing my scale out hotkey from a third to scale out a half. So I scale it a little bit more earlier in case it does reject. I think maybe there is a case to be made for that in the current market. If not, going for base hits and just jumping out of the trade very quickly when you have profit. But I don't yet want to entirely remove my ability to scalp out on big extensions, because I would be limiting my upside if we did have big moves and I just jump out right away and then it goes up another $1 or $2 a share. They'll be leaving a lot on the table. So we'll see what we do about that. That was our first trade, YAAS. I actually do take another trade on it right here, I believe, actually. MACD went negative after it rejected, and we formed a wedge below VWAP. Today I had a lot of technical issues as well, since I tried using my enter button again for orders in trade 0, but it wasn't executing. Right here, actually, I took a position for the break of VWAP in the wedge around 360, stopped just below the wedge in VWAP, stop of about 350. And this would have been a winning trade. I would have held up to $4 and got a nice scalp out of it, but I pressed my enter button to send the order and it just didn't send. Pressed it twice, it didn't send. Which was a little bit frustrating. Eventually, I wait to see if we hold up and form a pattern. And right here, as we candle over candle, I take a position at 380, looking for the squeeze through 4. It pops over 4. And right there, you can see me moving my mouse. I went to take some profit with Shift F as it popped up to 414, right? And I had a window pop up on my screen. So now we have more technical issues. And I'm going to have to figure out what to do about this. We talked about it on stream a little bit, like maybe some of my modifiers are popping up boxes, you know, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but we're going to have to fix it. And you can see right in the top there when I'm pressing the button, sometimes it's typing into my window. My hotkey for sell 1/3 on the bid is Shift F. So when I press it, it's popping up in my window. And it didn't send the order. Instead, I guess it typed in the level 2 window and it popped up a box. So it didn't send the order at 414. Otherwise, I would have started scaling out up at 414. Right there, I click on the level 2 to get rid of the box, and then I scalp out at 401. I lose 10 cents, 10, 14 cents on my first scale out. Maybe perhaps another little bit if I would have decided to scale out more as it stalled out. Maybe I would have scaled out twice. But we break back down and at 4, and I have to exit the position, break even for the rest. So it ended up being a tiny winner, 88-cent winner, instead of much more of what it could have been. Since I initially tried to buy for the breakthrough 360, right? And then I ended up buying higher on the candle over candle and then not being able to scale out at 414 because of multiple technical issues in subsequent fashion. So not very good. Not very nice. But at that point, we don't take any more trades on YAAS. The next stock that popped up was PPCB, and I'm sure that a lot of traders were focused on this stock today. PPCB popped up around 8:30. Had some news. And right here, I pull it up. 10 seconds left till this candle is closing. And I'm doing my normal checks. I'm evaluating the news, the float, the daily chart, and doing all of my checks and typing into the level 2. And by the time I finish the checks here, we're already squeezing with 3 seconds left. So before I finish, right here, I'm thinking about taking an order, but it squeezes without me and it doesn't give me any subsequent pullbacks. Unfortunately, I missed the first candle on it since my process for checks wasn't fast enough. And right here, we have a bigger topping tail, a pullback from 350 down to $3. So right here, I was thinking that this was potentially an ABCD pattern for the break back through $3 since we wicked out down through VWAP and we have 10 seconds left to this 1 minute candle close. So right there I bought for the breakthrough 3, thinking that this candle was going to close as a dragonfly. We pop up to 310 and we pull back, hold 3. We popped up to 310 a second time in a second here. I give it a little bit of time to work. And I see sellers popping up. We're stalling out. It pops up to 310 again, 312. And there's a lot of selling. There's a lot of upside resistance. So right there, I just get out on the ask at 309, thinking that this has a little bit too much upside resistance for a fresh pattern. I was thinking that if this was going to go, this should immediately go all the way up to 350, but it doesn't. In hindsight, it looks like I got out a little bit too soon. We do have a 23,000 share seller there, but it looks like I got out too soon in hindsight because I could have either scalped out at 320 as it popped up to 325. And right here, actually, we break through that descending resistance and through high of day, and it goes all the way up to 450. Now, I did take a position as it broke through 350. It popped up really fast there, right? I was thinking about taking the break of the descending resistance line at about maybe 315 or so, 315, 320 for the squeeze back through high of day, but it pops from 310 to 350 in an instant. Right there, it's already up near high of day. And I take a position, I hotkey in with Alt W, right? Right at the moment, like I'm pretty sure I pressed the button right. See if we can freeze frame it. I pressed the button right here. And you can see my limit order was like a split second off of 350. I was just a tad too late when the limit order went through, and it set the limit price up at 367. And I get filled up at 367 instead of 350. So I got filled 17 cents higher than I intended. And I also would have preferred to get an order filled for the break of the trend line. Instead, it popped up 30, 40 cents almost immediately. This was still a winning trade. It goes up to 4. I scalp out a little bit at 417. And it just does a massive pullback once again from 450 all the way down to 388, 370. Now we're really close to my entry, so I have to stop out the rest, break even. Coming back to that idea of maybe I should be scalping out half on these pops instead of a third because these pops aren't holding. And this isn't just today. This has been in the past couple of weeks. It's sort of been like this where it pops up and then it gets slammed back down with a big topping tail. And I'm losing quite a bit of my profits getting in on these positions where I'm not getting enough of them as they're popping. Right, this would have been a much better win if I had just taken all of it as it popped up to 425. Would have been a 50, 60 cent winner. But instead, I'm getting, 50 cents on a third of my shares and then getting out the rest break even. which isn't so good. But this is a stock that had the potential to keep going. Like we never really know what the stock is going to do if there's no exit indicators. So I like to hold until there is an exit indicator, but the problem is that by the time there is an exit indicator, the stock has already dropped 50 cents or a dollar a share, and you're forced to stop out break even. Whereas if I had just scalped out more as it popped, I'd be in a much bigger profit position. So at this point, I'm thinking we're extended. I wait for the 9 EMA to catch up. Right here, I buy the dip as it gets close to the 9 EMA, thinking that this is a strong stock, right? This is our leading gainer by a mile, biotech stock with decent news. So as we drop down closer there and I see that we have some support, I buy the dip at 378. Stop is about 360 or 350, just 20 shares, which is below the 9 EMA and that level of support. I think I set it probably to 350. And I'm looking for the eventual curl back up and retest of high of day. I said that I would add if it broke back over $4. We have 50 seconds left to the 5-minute candle close. And I was thinking that it could be a 5-minute micro pullback, and then we squeeze back up to the highs while MACD is still positive. But I hold it for a little while, and I realize that MACD is close to crossing over, and it's just going sideways at this point. We didn't have strong buying off of the 9 EMA. So I get out on the ask at 385 just for a small winner, just a very small winner. So I let it go sideways for a little bit longer. MACD's negative. Right here, I draw a trend line. And I'm thinking that this could be a 5-minute ABCD pattern if it breaks back through $4. To that trend line, you have the ascending support trend line drawn and connected from the most recent candles and also the previous high back here. You can't really see it because it's cut off in the 1 minute, but it's connected to 5-minute chart as well. I readjusted it a little bit to align more with the 5-minute and the top of that wick, the 5-minute. Right here we have the candle, this candle filling the wedge, and I'm thinking I should buy for the break of this wedge. Even though MACD is negative, we'll probably see a squeeze back up to the highs. Right here it breaks, and right here I should be buying at 405 as we break the wedge. I should be buying right here. But I'm a second too late again in my order. This is the second time today that I'm too late on my order and I get filled up higher than I intended. I get filled at 422. And I should have taken profit, or should be taking profit right here as it tests high of day at 439. In hindsight, I should have absolutely, even though I got filled too high, I should have taken some off the table here at high of day, even though it was only a 10-cent winner. My execution on the entry was the problem. I can't, I shouldn't be, in hindsight, adjusting my profit targets based on what I want to get. I should be taking profit based on what's reasonable. So, my risk reward was pretty bad. I wanted to try and compensate for that by holding longer and seeing that if it could squeeze through high of day and I could take some profit if it squeezes through. But like we've already talked about, this kind of seems like a scalping market. What happens is it tests high of day, it pulls back, and I end up holding with a stop of $4 to see if it can come back up and retest the highs. I was thinking that if we hold $4, this could be an ABCD or a bull flag, and it could retest the highs once, and I would exit the position if it retested and failed to break through. But it ends up rejecting. I get out at 390. And right at the end here, I also had another problem where I had my profit target orders out. I set some profit target orders right around here in case it popped up to 440 and rejected. So I set it ahead of time to try and maybe get a top tick as it pops up. But as it's dropping, I send a order to sell in the bid, and it rejects my order. You can probably see it right here. Drops down, my order gets rejected. Luckily, it didn't do any damage because it had support at 390, and I was able to cancel my orders and then sell in the bid. So that left us with a negative $3.70 red day plus commissions. We took more trades than we did normally today, so probably a little bit more in commissions. But overall, I'm happy with the fact that this change made me a little bit more willing to take and jump onto trades. All of these trades I think today were decent trades. All of them made sense. YAS, although it was a red trade, the very first trade of the day, it made sense. It didn't work. You know, the process was good. The outcome, it doesn't matter. The rest of these trades were all good trades that made sense. Some of them could have been bigger because my execution wasn't so good. And this very last trade that was minus $6 was, you know, almost entirely $6 because of execution. Otherwise, it would have been a 30-cent winner. My second trade on PPCB, if I had gotten in earlier or taken more profit off the table sooner, would have been a bigger win. I think today was a green day that was marred by my own execution. And that's a good thing because execution is something that can be improved with more reps and more time. The problem that we've been struggling with, which is hesitating to jump into opportunities, that doesn't get us anywhere, right? If we don't get reps in, if we're constantly sitting on our hands and not taking trades, not getting the experience, then it's going to take us a lot longer to improve. And psychology, as we know, is the hardest part of trading. So I think that our experiment today of trading with only the 1 minute chart, kind of reducing the noise and improving our process a little bit, helped significantly today for me being willing to jump into trades. Now, I'm not saying that the 10-second chart is not good. There's plenty of traders who use the 10-second chart. They do very well with it. But there's also a lot of people who trade with 1 minute charts only, and they tend to do better, and they do just as well as any other traders. So it depends on the trader. Whether they find that the 10-second chart works better for them, that's great. For me today, I feel like the 1 minute chart worked better. But the only way to truly test is to continue to trade and test the process over a long period of time. So we'll see if this continues working. We're going to come back tomorrow and try and do the same thing, improve our execution, take good trades, and keep some momentum going. So $3.70 red day, but to me today feels like a winning day. And we'll just continue improving. That's all for my recap today. I'll be back at it again tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, as per usual. So take care, manage your risk, stay green, and I'll see you tomorrow.